Love bombing. 8 red flags that you're being love manipulated by a spouse. Hi friends. Welcome to Marriage Realities, a comprehensive relationship channel. Today's video is all about the red flags that show that your spouse is love bombing you. It is true that you want to be loved and cared by a spouse. It is also true that you want your spouse to openly display his or her love for you. But when you feel restricted by the overwhelming display of love by your spouse, it just means that he or she is being manipulative towards you. The love attitude of your spouse seems true to you. During the initial stages of your marriage, you feel that you are lucky to have married such a loving spouse. But when your spouse gradually makes you pliable and slavish towards him or her, you're alarmed that your life is no longer yours. You feel as though your life has been completely taken over by your spouse. What exactly does love bombing mean to your relationship? In reality, the love bombing of your spouse is only love manipulation. Your spouse manipulates in such a way that you feel showered with intense love and care by him or her. But as years go by, you feel overwhelmingly pressed down by the love of your spouse. The love display of your spouse is that intense that you're compelled to be pliable to him or her even though you do not like many things he or she is doing. When you make a decision of your own, your spouse acts as though you have done him or her great wrong. Not by locking horns with you, but by looking as though you have done him or her great injustice. You like it when your spouse behaves in a loving manner towards you, but you dislike it when the intense love shown by your spouse makes you feel claustrophobic. Your spouse is very clever in hiding his or her selfish intentions. That overwhelming is his or her display of love towards you. When your spouse exploits your love to his or her convenience, you do not like it at all. What does the love bombing of your spouse feel like? You often feel manipulated by your spouse. Many a time you feel that your independence is being curtailed by your spouse. Though your spouse brilliantly hides the love bombing he or she is displaying, you feel its negative impact. But you find it hard to pinpoint why you are feeling manipulated by your spouse. The number one red flag of love bombing is manipulation. As a normal human being, you like the lavish display of love your spouse constantly showers on you. The love and care displayed by your spouse is that much that you feel you're lucky to have married a person who makes you feel special. But as years go by, you have the niggling doubt that your spouse is not as loving as you thought him or her to be. You also become confused about why your spouse has converted you into a slave who will be willing to do anything for him or her. As you become slavish to the love of your spouse, you're alarmed when he or she uses it for his or her own selfish needs. When your spouse wants something from you, he or she acts artificially loving towards you until his or her wishes are fulfilled by you. You do not have the mind to say no to your spouse, as that much loving and caring is his or her outer attitude towards you. When your spouse wants something out of you, you'll be showered with compliments so much so that you feel good just listening to it. When you're still basking under the rain of compliments, your spouse seamlessly pushes forward to talk about his or her desires. As you're totally unaware about the manipulations of your spouse, all you can do is nod your head in affirmation. The astonishing thing about your spouse is that he or she does everything without even a momentary display of deceit. The number 2 red flag of love bombing is too much compliments. When you are in a love bombing relationship, your spouse literally makes you feel overwhelmed by showering you with compliments. Your spouse is so complimenting that you feel totally loved by him or her. In return, your love bombarding spouse expects you to go all out to compliment him or her in such an overwhelmingly artificial manner that you feel you cannot take it any longer. Occasionally, you do feel that the compliments of your spouse do not sound natural, but you are unable to pinpoint exactly why you feel so. The number 3 red flag of love bombing relationship is overwhelming show of love. When you are in a love bombarding relationship, there is constant overdosage of love display by your spouse. Your spouse messages you multiple times even when you are in your workplace. The messages your spouse sends oozes with love overflow. Gradually, the love messages of your spouse seem to be queries about what you are doing and whom you are with. You now feel questioned and spied. The number 4 red flag of love bombing is expecting all your attention. You feel suffocated when your spouse expects all your attention in the name of love. You're unable to spend time with your friends as your love-bombarding spouse will have nothing to do with it. You're alarmed when your world gradually shrinks to just the two of you. You cannot but feel oppressed and suppressed in such a restrictive relationship. The number 5 red flag of love bombing is artificial public display of love. It is as though your spouse wants the world to know how much he or she loves you. So your spouse makes you feel embarrassed with open display of love in full public view. You do not feel happy at this blatant display of love in full public view as you feel something artificial in it. The number 6 red flag of love bombing is not allowing others into your life. Your spouse acts as though he or she wants you all for himself or herself. You're compelled to spend all your time with your spouse without having others in your life. Unknown to you, your family, friends and others are barred entry into your life, all by your love-bombing spouse. So, your friends disappear from your life. Your family are unable to contact you. Everything is done with clever smoothness by your manipulative spouse. The number 7 red flag is wanting to have a say in all your decisions. When your relationship is love bombing, your life is gradually taken over by your spouse. You are taken unawares by the cleverness with which your spouse becomes the decision maker of your life. You feel as though you cannot do anything without the consent of your spouse. When you try doing your own thing, your spouse makes it seem as though you have done him or her great injustice. Your spouse is clever enough not to openly show his or her dissent. This is how you are tricked to be a yes sir to your manipulative spouse. The number 8 red flag of love bombing is intense reaction of hurt when you set your boundaries. Though you want to live your life as you like, your spouse is always in the way. When you try to set boundaries in your life, your spouse reacts as though you are doing great harm to him or her. The hyped up emotional reaction of your spouse to your need for a personal space make you feel suffocated with total lack of freedom. Love in your married life should be mutual, tolerable and true. When the love of your spouse is just a means to fulfill his or her selfish needs, you do not like it at all. True love of your spouse will always feel genuine to you. When the love of your spouse makes you feel overwhelmed and suffocated, it just means that he or she is displaying smothering love, which you do not relish or enjoy. Did this video make you understand that you are being love bombed by your spouse? Marriage Realities will have many such relationship eye-openers. Subscribe to my channel to understand your marriage in a new light. Press the bell icon for updates about my latest relationship videos. Make love forever until death do us part, your relationship goal.